common question that parents face at some point. When do I stop financially supporting my grown children? In this video, I'll share 4 things to consider when you decide when to stop financially supporting your grown child, and 4 tips for when they ask for money. I'm Cyn Meyer, founder of Second Win Movement and a life coach for older adults who are striving to live their ideal, active, healthy, and engaged retirement lives. And sometimes money is a sticking point for people, and grown children leeching off of their parents can sometimes make things worse. I get it though. Things that go through a lot of my students and clients' heads. What if they're struggling, or what if they just expect money from me every month? How do I know when it's time to cut them off, if ever? Super common worries that parents continue to take on. In fact, according to a survey from savings.com, more than half of parents of adult children support them financially. And if we break down their survey even further, as many as 11% of adult children are over the age of 35, which makes total sense because research shows that parental financial support is linked to a child's career success. As in, the more parental financial support, the more career success. So when they're grown adults, the habit of financial support is already well ingrained and it's pretty much baked in. While it's normal to worry about your children for life, providing for them financially for life does not have to be the case. While there are no hard and fast rules about when to stop financially supporting your child, there are a few things to consider that can help you make the decision. If you're wondering when to stop financially supporting your child, consider these 4 things. Number 1, your financial situation. If you're struggling to make ends meet, it's probably not the best time to be giving your adult child money. You have to take care of yourself first and foremost, of course. Not to mention, getting financially stable first before overextending yourself is a solid habit to pass on to your kids. If you're in a good financial situation, on the other hand, then maybe you can afford to help the child out. Number 2, the effort that they're making. Are they looking for a job? Are they putting in the effort? Or are they just sitting around and expecting you to hand them money? If they're not making any effort to find work, then it's time to have a talk with them about what their plans are before you transfer over the dollars into their account, just to avoid confrontation. On the other hand, if they're just facing some life struggles, but they're working hard to overcome them on their own, you can consider, of course, helping them out temporarily. Number 3, the amount they're asking for. If they're only asking for a few $100s and you can afford to lend it to them, then it's probably worth temporarily helping them out. But if they're asking for more than you're comfortable with to help cover the majority of their monthly expenses, that's a totally different story. It's about handing out an amount that you're comfortable giving and making sure that you're setting them up for success instead of simply enabling a long-term financial problem. And finally, number 4, how is the money being used? Are they using the money to pay for essentials like food and rent? Or are they blowing it on frivolous and unhealthy toxic habits? The answer is obvious, but the act of cutting them off is not always easy, of course. If they're using the money wisely, then you may be more inclined to help them out. But if they're wasting it, then of course rethink enabling their unhealthy habits. Ultimately, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to stopping financial support for your adult child. It's a personal decision for each person to make based on their circumstances, with the main goal being their own financial independence. Which brings us to what to do in case they ask. Here's 4 ways to handle when your grown child asks for money. Number 1, have an honest conversation. When your grown child asks for money, as tough as it is, try to talk to them about their finances and make sure that they're making responsible choices with their money. According to Fidelity's research, as many as 38% of parents completely avoid the topic of retirement finances with their adult children. But if you give them a blank check, they might not make the best decisions. So instead, sit down with them and talk about their financial situation and their plans. What are their spending habits, their budget, their income, expenses? What are their short-term and their long-term financial goals? By making them talk about it out loud, you'll both be getting a clearer picture of your child's finances, and then you can help them isolate any financial culprits and make responsible choices with their money. You never know, maybe helping your child become financially responsible is one of the best gifts that you can give them. Number 2, set some ground rules. If you're going to continue giving your grown child money, setting some ground rules will be a game changer. Decide how much money you're willing to give and stick to that number. It's okay to be firm because you don't want to set a precedent that you're always going to give in. And then decide how often you're going to give them money, which will help you keep track of how much money you're giving them and also ensure that they're not constantly asking for money. And again, it's all about being consistent and firm here. Once you've decided on the frequency, make sure to just stick to it. And finally, talk about what the money's going to be used for so that it actually goes towards something that's positive and necessary. Number 3, create a timeline. When you're ready, think about when to cut the cord and let them fend for themselves, especially if it's impacting your own quality of life and interfering with your retirement plans. Truth be told, if the bad habits continue, it'll interfere with their ideal plans too. This doesn't mean you have to stop giving them money cold turkey, but even if you have a timeline of when you plan to decrease and eventually stop financial support, that can be super beneficial. In fact, research on parental support in the transition to adulthood found that the likelihood of receiving financial help decreases by 15% each year. So that might be an average rule of thumb to follow if that makes sense for your financial situation. But basically, it's proactive to ease into it by gradually decreasing the amount of money that you give them each month, and even setting up specific milestones that need to be met before you continue financial support. For example, maybe they need to get a full-time job, finish school, or start making progress on paying down their own debts. Whatever the case may be, have a heart-to-heart talk with your child and let them know what your expectations are going forward. It's also a good idea to keep the lines of communication totally open so that you can revisit that conversation and that timeline if you need to. The goal is to help them become financially independent while at the same time not leaving them high and dry. Number 4, offer non-financial support. When you eliminate or reduce financial support, be sure to offer other forms of support. Fortunately, there are a few ways to provide non-financial support that can be just as helpful as giving them cash. For instance, you can offer to help them with their budget, or connect them with resources like financial counselors, or even offering your own advice and knowledge. Another option is to help them with childcare or housework or errands. That can help them save money or time. In fact, according to Pew Research, this is what a lot of parents do for their grown children. However you go about it, there are creative ways to tailor your support to their individual needs and help them proactively in advance. It's not always easy, but finding a balance between setting boundaries and offering support is totally ideal. To recap, when deciding when to stop financially supporting your adult child, consider these 4 things: your financial situation, the effort they're making, the amount that they're asking for, and what the money is being used for. And of course, there's a point when your grown kids need to be financially strong and independent. To recap our 4 tips to help you handle when your grown child asks for money: number 1, have an honest conversation. Discuss your financial situation and talk about their plans. Number 2, set some ground rules. Agree on an amount or a limit and frequency and what the money can be used for. Number 3, create a timeline. Let them know when you plan to decrease amounts and then stop giving money to encourage them to be financially responsible. Number 4, offer non-financial support. You can be there for them emotionally, physically, mentally, and help them in other super important and meaningful ways. There is no easy answer when it comes to dealing with grown children and money. Ultimately, it's about your own budget and your best judgment to decide what's best for your child and their future, and for yourself. Whatever the case may be, may you be clear with your boundaries and loving in your conversations. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe, and comment. Every interaction that you make with this video helps us do our job better of creating helpful content for this important audience of older adults who are striving to be their best during this very important phase of retirement. So thank you so much for striving to be your best. We need more people like you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.